What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. Can't lie, Monday the 3rd of July is proving to be something of a slow news day. Nothing really major going on, although AFTV a couple of hours ago were very quick to break the story. Not really a story, but we've known for a while that Granit Xhaka is leaving. It now appears that we have finalised that agreement with Bayer Leverkusen. He will be going to Bayer Leverkusen. What is interesting about this story, though, is when it was first reported, it seemed that he was being sold for around 13 million. It seems like Arsenal have dug in and said they don't really need to sell him. They're happy to keep him, and they've managed to up the price to 21.5 million. We know we've had a huge transfer window for expenditure, so I guess every penny counts. But it's good, actually, on one level, to see us not only really going out and doing our transfer business and getting the players we want early, but hopefully we'll see Arsenal go back to doing the kind of business on sales that can bring money, much needed money in as well.
Hasta la vista, baby.
The other news, if you can call it that, I'm not sure how much store to put in this, but that West Ham are now issuing a hurry up for the sale of Declan Rice. It's all been confirmed. Players' terms are agreed. We're the only team in the running, but it seems that they still have not finally agreed the terms of the 100 million up front. Obviously, West Ham would like it in 1 to 2 years, and Arsenal have always wanted to spread the payments over 4 to 5 years. Seems that Sullivan has now issued a statement saying that if this deal isn't done, he's happy to pull out of it, and Declan Rice will remain a West Ham player. Not hugely convincing, to be honest with you. It's clear that Declan Rice wants to go. They do need the money. I can understand why they would need the money up front if they're going to do deals. I'm sure this will get sorted. That's the only other bit of news. Today, though, is the day that the Arsenal first teamers return with a view to getting ready for pre-season, which I'm already hugely excited about. And that is all except the international players. Big special mention to Matt Turner, who became the fastest to 20 clean sheets of any US keeper. I know they're playing in the CONCACAF Gold, and I wish them all the best. Emil Smith-Rowe, another player on international duty, albeit with the under-21s, and played yesterday, came on. I don't know what's going on, why he doesn't start. He came on in the 68th minute yesterday. Bit turgid affair, really. England managed to score quite a nice goal and then spent the rest of the match defending a Portugal side who couldn't quite break through. I will say, though, one player that stood out for me that hasn't had a lot of plaudits, on the right wing for Portugal, Francisco Conceição. I thought he played absolutely brilliant and ran rings round Aaron's. In fact, he wasn't really... I didn't get a good score from the game. Perhaps it's just me. But if you get a chance... he's at Ajax. I think he's one to watch for the future. I thought his passing was exceptional. Not really the sort of dribbling aspect of the right wing, but certainly really bringing other players into the game. Really good. Another player playing for Portugal was Nuno Tavares, and not such a good game for him. I think we're all getting used to that. Not quite an attacker, not quite a defender. I don't think he's found his position yet, and certainly there are wrinkles to iron out in his game. And what I thought I'd do is, because that reminded me, he's obviously on loan and returning imminently from a spell at Marseille. What I thought I'd do, since it is a slightly slow news day, is go through the first team players who were out on loan, not the youth team players. I know there were a lot of those out as well, but the first team players who were out on loan with a view to seeing whether they may be loaned out again, sold, or might come and play a part in the Arsenal first team squad. And the first one to start with is Rune Alex Runarsson. Now, I try not to be unkind about Arsenal players. I try to stay upbeat and positive. This is going to be a tough one. He really had possibly the worst game I've seen from an Arsenal keeper in my years of watching the game. He came he played in the Manchester City Cup game where we went away, flapped at the ball to allow Jesus to score the first. We equalised and then a free kick, and he basically just tapped it. It was one of the worst goals to concede. Had an absolute nightmare game. We conceded 4 goals. It was at a period where the player confidence was really low. He was then loaned out to H. Leuven and has recently been on loan at Alayaspor in Turkey. he has 1 year left on his contract. I don't expect to see him back. He's well and truly being sold. I think people are being really unkind. He has played 24 times for Iceland. He's not a terrible player. It just didn't work out for him. And the goalkeeper is that kind of position. If you come in and have a nightmare. The only other goalkeeper on loan, though, slightly different, Okonkwo. Now, he's been at Arsenal since he was 8 years old. He's from my neck of the woods in London, so I really wish him well. But he went out on loan to Crewe Alexandra, was recalled, and then sent out again to Sturm Graz. Sturm Graz finished second behind Salzburg in the Austrian Bundesliga, and he managed to pick up they won the Austrian Cup, so he managed to pick up a winner's medal in the Cup. This has apparently really caught the eye of Arteta, who is considering sending Hayne, our third choice keeper at the moment, on loan and keeping Okonkwo in the squad. Be brilliant to see. Young player, lots of promise, and we're going to have games coming up. So I'd keep you posted on that one, but he's very much either going to be coming into the team or getting another loan, and at the moment it does look like he's coming into the team. Then we get into the defenders. Cedric Soares hasn't really worked out for him at Arsenal. He's 31 years old now. Loan season at Fulham didn't really go to plan. He played 8 games, only starting 2. And I think it's very much game over for him at Arsenal. I do wish him well. He is a player that was supposed to be able to play left and right side. Didn't really work out for him. And of course, we have upgraded since then. I mentioned Nuno Tavares. Nuno Tavares on loan at Marseille. Now, he had a barnstorming start by scoring on his debut, but then he was involved in a sending off which started a brawl. I think it was against Montpellier. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, he kind of fell out of favour with the Marseille coaches, and towards the end was not really even on the bench that often. So he has apparently said that he would like to come back and fight for his place at Arsenal. There have been rumours of offers of around 8 million. Looks like we're going to take a hit on this. I don't think that he's going to be at Arsenal next season. There are lots of rumours that Arteta was really unhappy with him in training. I think it's unfortunate. He's a young guy. He obviously has a bright future ahead of him somewhere, but he does just need to iron out some of the wrinkles, as I said earlier. And then the next one is Pablo Mari. I don't know how you say it. But look, this one's a bit of a non-starter anyway. I did a video months back. Part of the loan to Monza was that if they avoided relegation, it would trigger a purchase of €7 million, £6 million. And that happened ages ago. I think they ended up finishing 15th. So we've known for a long time that he was going. He officially went yesterday or the day before. Wish him all the best. He was, of course, Arteta's first signing. He's 31 now, so I hope he enjoys a few more years in Serie A. Next, this one's a really interesting one for me. He's never actually played a game for Arsenal. He came from one of Stan Kroenke's franchises, the Colorado Rapids, Austin Trusty. We bought him, immediately loaned him back to the Colorado Rapids, and when he came over here, we loaned him out to Birmingham. Now, he has been Birmingham's Player of the Season in the Championship, and there are going to be lots of teams interested in him. I think the problem with Austin Trusty, he's one of our 3 US players, if you include Folarin Balogun and Matt Turner and Austin Trusty. The problem, I think, here is that he's not quite good enough, certainly with the signing of Timber and the mooted signing of Laporte, which is another story that's kind of simmering underneath today. It does look like he's not quite ready for the Arsenal and not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. I think we're looking at Rangers as the most likely destination for him. They're apparently interested in taking him. I'll keep you posted on that one, but it looks like a sell Austin Trusty. Now, in the midfield, only one player, actually, and that's Albert Sambi Lokonga. Now, Lokonga, look, he was managed by Vincent Kompany at Anderlecht. Vincent Kompany is really keen to take him back. Obviously, Kompany is managing newly promoted Burnley with a lot of fanfare. Looks like he could be quite a good manager. Don't want to heap too much pressure on him. But it'd be really interesting to see what Burnley do. They were a brilliant side in the Championship, and it seems to be stalling because Albert is deciding whether he wants to join Burnley. He wants minutes. He said he wants to play every minute. Now, that might not be something that's that easy to achieve. We loaned him to Crystal Palace when Crystal Palace were being managed by Patrick Vieira in the hopes that he would get something out of him. It ended really badly for Patrick Vieira at Crystal Palace, and when Roy Hodgson came in, he just wasn't. He wasn't for him, so he didn't get the minutes. It's almost certain that we will find someone to buy him. I would suggest, Albert, if you're watching, if somebody like Vincent Kompany wants you and his star is on the rise, you should really go and just prove yourself at Burnley. Although it's easy for me to say, I've never actually been to Burnley. But Albert Sambi-Lokonga, I think we can all agree, hasn't made it Arsenal and isn't expected to. Now, the attackers, this is where some really interesting... this is where it gets really interesting, because starting with Marquinhos... A bit of a so-so season at Norwich, not quite setting the world on fire. But, he's still very young, and let's not forget he scored in his debut in the Europa League. There's potential here, and I think another loan would probably do him good. But it's starting to feel like he's not quite the superstar we'd all hoped he would be. Now, Pepe. Really confused by Pepe. He wrote some really lovely things. I talked about it yesterday in the video. He said some really lovely things about Arteta and then complained that Arteta had messed him around by not playing Willian instead. He hasn't had a great season in Ligue 1 for Nice. Hasn't played all that well. The price tag is a huge amount over his head. He's clearly not coming back to Arsenal, and it looks very much like nobody wants to offer us money for him. So almost certainly comes down to the fact that he will be released on a free and we will pay him off for the rest of his contract. Incredible to think he was our record signing. I think it came at a time where signings were made to appease fans. There are various rumours circulating of a more conspiracy mindset, which I'm going to cover in a video coming up this week, where I look at some of the more interesting conspiracy theories around Arsenal over the years. But ultimately, Pepe is not just quite good enough. He's certainly not first team squad, and on the kind of wages he's on, he would be taking up a place on that bench that he's never going to get. Arteta doesn't rate him, and I think that's the last we'll see of him in an Arsenal shirt. And finally, there's been a lot of talk about a player who went out on loan originally to Middlesbrough and did nothing particularly interesting, but then went to Rennes, and they sacked their manager, brought in Will Still, a real character, somebody who was basically apparently learned how to manage football teams on Championship Manager, which means I probably have a chance because I was amazing on that game. But he really did set the goal scoring charts on fire. He was number one in the French league for goal scoring for a while. Finally, of course, Kylian Mbappe finished on top. Alexandre Lacazette pulled ahead of him, and David did as well. But really not a bad season, and he has in that time decided to represent United States, as I mentioned earlier, and scored for the United States. Things are looking really good for him. That's a really lucrative position to have as a figurehead for the US men's national team. It looks like he doesn't want to come to Arsenal unless he's going to get minutes. But the reality here is he's unlikely to be first choice up front. I don't know if he would get many minutes. Perhaps that's a conversation they're having. We do have an abundance of forwards. I know people don't always think this, but when you start to add them up, we do have Martinelli can play up front, Jesus can play up front, Trossard can play up front. Of course, we have Nketiah already. It goes down the list, and you start to see we probably in a 22-man squad with three keepers supplementing that probably don't have room for all the forwards we do now, which has led to people discussing whether you'd keep following Balogun on Eddie Nketiah. Now, I did a video on Eddie Nketiah and why he hasn't made it. That's there if you want to quickly watch that. Don't. Stay here. I haven't finished yet. But my view is pretty clear. We know that Eddie Nketiah is not going to make it. Or sorry, spoiler alert if you do watch the video. But my view is pretty clear. Eddie Nketiah is not of a high enough standard. And as much as I want to see all of the Haaland players, all of the Haaland boys doing really well, you have to accept that when it's not happening. It's just not happening. So I would prefer to sell Eddie Nketiah and keep following Balogun. But here's the problem, and Charles Watts has made this case very well numerous times. If Flo won't sign his contract, that means he's a free agent in a year's time. You get no money for him. It's not clear There is huge demand for Eddie Nketiah at this point in time, but he is on a quite a long contract, I believe, till 2027. So, to the question, what will happen to Folarin Balogun? I think we're looking at a sale. There are plenty of teams out there interested. 30 to 35 million seems to be the asking price. Although, if we did what we did with Granit Xhaka, who knows? We may get up to the 50 million and start bringing that money in so that we can offset it with even more transfers. That's the keep sell loan of the loan players from the first team as a team gets back in training ready for the new season, which I'm hugely excited about, and I'm sure you are as well. It only remains for me, therefore, to say, listen, the last couple of days have been a huge uptake in subscribers. I'm thrilled to bits about it. Your comments, your likes and your subscriptions mean the world to me. So if you haven't yet, do that and make me really happy. But apart from anything else, thank you so much for watching this far, and I look forward to, well, maybe there'll be some news tomorrow. You never know. But there is a live show on Thursday on Football Dad's Army's channel, and we'll be doing a couple more lives over the week. Certainly if there's any breaking news. I'd like to get in on the breaking news. But until that, be lucky and lots of love.